Coming up, HBO Max is dropping soon,
Movie theater companies are debating when to reopen.
and celebrities are going all in to raise money for coronavirus relief.
The semester's last episode of the Unpeeled podcast starts right now. Hello, and welcome to the semester's final episode of the Unpeeled podcast. I'm Liam Crowley.
And I'm Katie Lane. We have a lot to cover today, so let's get right to it. Some of the world's biggest artists are coming together for a virtual music festival. The Play On Fest is streaming 72 consecutive hours of pre-recorded concerts.
Yes, Katie, some of the artists involved are Coldplay, Bruno Mars, Cardi B, and Panic at the Disco, just to name a few. The festival is supporting the COVID-19 Response Fund for the World Health Organization. Now, Katie, just looking at this lineup, it is the definition of stacked. Every artist you can think of is likely playing at this festival, but it's important to note it's pre-recorded footage, but alas, getting all these artists together, it's pretty special.
I know, I was looking at the list last night because it started today, and it is loaded. They have people lined up from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. And then on Sunday, it even starts at 1:05 a.m. It's crazy. I know I'm really looking forward to see Ben Platt on Sunday. I missed his tour over last summer, but now this is my next best bet. Who are you looking forward to see, Liam?
I gotta say, day two, Saturday, April 25th, has a pretty stacked lineup. I'm a big fan of A Boogie with the Hoodie. I love Wiz Khalifa, Gucci Mane, Roddy Ricch, but one that is very interesting is Nipsey Hussle's Victory Lap album performance. Obviously, Nipsey Hussle tragically passed away in 2019, so it's cool that they're going to be able to get him back with some pre-recorded footage and still be able to showcase his music. But turning over to the streaming service world, HBO Max is officially launching on May 27th. Warner Brothers streaming service comes with all of HBO's programming. They also have classic TV shows like Friends and films like the Lord of the Rings trilogy and new programming on top of that.
Yes, Liam, the service costs $15 a month for just HBO Max. HBO Now subscribers have the choice to switch their subscription to Max for the same price. And users who pay for HBO through an AT&T subscription or their television subscription can get HBO Max for free. HBO Go subscribers won't get the same benefits, but that's just for now. We'll definitely keep you posted if that changes. Now, Liam, this is yet another streaming service joining the game. I know you're practically our streaming service expert on Unpeeled, so I wanted to ask you a few questions, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's
Okay.
let's get into it.
Yes. Do you think we really need another streaming service? Would it have been better for HBO to partner with an already existing service?
Katie, I'm going to say no to this question every single day of the week and twice on Sundays. We do not need another streaming service. It is absolutely ridiculous, especially for HBO. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't say HBO needs to stay out of the streaming service market because it's a very profitable market, but they already have HBO Now, HBO Go. Why do you need a third streaming service under that umbrella? Basically, what they're going to do is make original content that's exclusive to 3 different streaming services. So that way you're subscribing to, if you're a big HBO fan, 3 different services, possibly giving $50 a month when it's all said and done. It's insane. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of cool content on this streaming service, but my wallet does not allow me to subscribe to 10, 12 different networks.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of worried to see what this means for other services as well. With shows and movies leaving one platform for another. I know we saw that with Friends. People were freaking out, but now it's going to be available on HBO Max. So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to leave services they have now and who's going to make the switch to HBO Max. One of HBO's streaming competitors is on the rise. Netflix has gained just under 16 million subscribers in the first quarter of the year.
Now, this puts the streaming service at 183 million subscribers. Despite the growth, Netflix CEO Reed Hastings says that the company is uncertain what will happen with subscribers for the remainder of this year.
The growth comes with most states on lockdown due to COVID-19. Netflix expects to add 7.5 million subscribers over the second quarter of the year. So Netflix really is spearheading the streaming services as a whole. I remember when the company was just a mail-in Blockbuster. Do you remember those, Liam?
Oh my God, yeah.
And they started offering shows and movies on PCs, and honestly, in a blink of an eye, it really blew up. Now they're offered pretty much on any device that can connect to the internet. But Netflix really didn't stop there. The company started creating original content, everything from movies and TV shows to reality TV and comedy specials. What do you like to watch on Netflix, Liam?
I will say I'm a big fan of their comedy specials, especially the Pete Davidson one that recently came out. They also have the exclusive streaming rights to the John Mulaney comedy specials, which I love. But Netflix is kind of in a weird position now because, as you mentioned, they were the original streaming service. They eventually were moved from just mailing movies to having the streaming platform, and then they were one of the first streaming services to create original content. And now it seems like they might be kind of plateauing. However, if we're going to look at this current situation, obviously the global pandemic is terrible, but a silver lining for Netflix is a lot more people are not only watching their content, but choosing a lot different content on the platform, not just going back to the same stuff they always watch, but trying out new things. And that really might boost their numbers.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how Netflix is going to bounce back and make themselves stand out amongst the competition.
Absolutely. But one thing Netflix has done is has put the movie theater industry on a complete pause, and so has the global pandemic. And coming up, we'll tell you all about that. Movie theaters have been asked to reopen in Georgia, the industry's response to the controversial decision.
And a new Hunger Games film has been announced, what you can expect to see in the new prequel. Stay tuned.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Fans of the dystopian fantasy series The Hunger Games were given a surprise this week after Deadline reported that a new film in the series is in development, this time a prequel. Director Francis Lawrence has signed on to adapt the latest book from creator Suzanne Collins titled The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. The film is rumored to focus around a young President Snow growing up in Panem. Joining Unpeeled for one final time is our senior film reporter, Andrew Goldberg. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey guys, thank you for having me on. It's great to be here one last time, and I'm very excited to talk about this next film project, the next and probably final one in the Hunger Games series, this time a prequel. So just to provide some context for those maybe not as familiar with the series, Hunger Games mainly focused on one family and the protagonist, Katniss Everdeen, who has to live in this dystopian society where two people from each of the 12 districts are chosen to basically fight to the death in what's called the Hunger Games. And, spoiler alert here, it ends up, they join together and create this revolution and ends up, toppling the evil government that's been putting on these games. But for the prequel, it looks like the subject is going to be on the president by the end of the series. So I think it's going to provide some interesting background on how the games were first created, maybe sort of like a Star Wars style story of like young, child innocent at first and then later becomes evil. And I think it'll give people a really interesting angle to look at from this story's perspective.
There have been a lot of famous actors and actresses that have been in the Hunger Games movies. Who can viewers expect to see possibly in this movie?
So I think this is going to be a bit different from what we've seen before. The good news is director Francis Lawrence is returning for this film. He directed all the other previous films in the series. So it's still going to have high production value. I don't think viewers should expect to see, Katniss Everdeen and Peeta Mellark, the two protagonists, back in this film because it takes place far before their time. But I would not be surprised if a new crop of sort of challengers in the Hunger Games pop up with some familiar faces. And Donald Sutherland was the person that played President Snow in the series before. And I think you probably will find someone who looks similar to he does, but in a much younger role.
Now, Andrew, the last time we saw a Hunger Games movie in theaters was 2015. So this is 5 years later when they're just developing the project. We don't even know when we'll see it in theaters. Obviously, with the pandemic going on, we don't know if their production schedule will be halted for any reason. Do you think audiences are still eager for more Hunger Games movies, or is this franchise kind of played out at this point?
Well, I wouldn't say it's played out necessarily, but I do think they are sort of reaching back pretty deep for this one. I mean, like you said, 2015 is a long time ago at this point. And, the good news for fans of the series is that intellectual property-based content has never been more popular. And I'm sure the studio is looking at this as one more opportunity to sort of, go after the golden goose and get a known audience. Fans of this series and these movies will likely turn out to see it. But nationally, The Hunger Games isn't really in the spotlight anymore. Plus, since 2015, there are so many more viewing options for consumers to look at that I'm not totally sure if they're going to be as excited, especially without the star power and the known story of the trilogy that came before. I just think without the known actors and actresses, it just might not have the same draw.
Well, thank you so much, Andrew, not just for today, but for all of your time on Unpeeled. We'll definitely keep our viewers posted on what's happening with the latest Hunger Games prequel. So thank you, Andrew.
Of course, guys, it's been a pleasure doing this year. Good luck with the rest of quarantine, and good luck to the rest of Unpeeled in the future.
Pressure is mounting across the nation to reopen the economy despite the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. Earlier this week, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp said that the state will begin opening certain businesses. That includes a key part of the entertainment industry, movie theaters. Joining us now to discuss why Georgia residents still should not expect to see a movie in theaters anytime soon is Unpeeled's industry reporter, Sam Lebowitz. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Liam, Katie. I'm glad to talk to you guys. It's been a while since we've been at home, but glad to be on the show. Excited to talk about some interesting political decisions that probably aren't going to actually mean anything for the foreseeable future.
Now, Sam, let's get right into it. Obviously, each state has had different mandates when opening businesses again. How did theaters react to being allowed to reopen in Georgia? And why might theaters ignore the plan and stay closed?
Well, you might think that theaters would be really quick to open because they've been given the okay from the state, but that really wasn't the case. And quite frankly, the plan didn't mean anything to most of those theaters because most of them are going to stay closed for the foreseeable future. And there's a few reasons for that. Firstly, Georgia is not on the other side of this pandemic yet. The CDC said that businesses can start to reopen once a state has seen 14 days consecutively in decreases. Georgia hasn't seen that yet. So even though Brian Kemp is saying that there's been a decline in confirmed cases and the curve is flattening, they're not quite there yet. And the curve is only flattening because of social distancing measures. So personally, I don't think now is the time to reopen. I think now that you got to really hammer down the social distancing and try to get that curve all the way flat. And a lot of people think it's going to get worse if it starts opening up. I tend to agree. And a lot of theaters tend to agree with that as well. So I personally think that the theaters are correct in trying to keep things closed. Also, they don't want to leave themselves open to a possible lawsuit if they open up and someone gets sick and they don't want to be the theater that's in the middle of a second outbreak in Georgia. And then there's the practical side of things where they can't really even open up right now, even if they wanted to. All the chains furloughed or laid off most of their workers. It would take about a week to 2 weeks to rehire and retrain staff. And that's not to mention the fact that there's not even content that they could really show in the theaters. The next wide release in theaters is a movie called The King of Staten Island, and that's not supposed to come out until June 19th. So there's really nothing they could even show in theaters right now. So it doesn't make any logistical sense as to why they would open up right now. And then you have to take into account that Georgia, when they do open, they're still having some social distancing measures in effect. And that means no more than 10 people in a theater at any given time. So is it even logical or is it financially viable to open up a theater to 10 customers? No, it's not. So there's a whole bunch of reasons as to why theaters are probably going to ignore this and stay closed.
So, Sam, when can Georgia residents be expected to go back to the theaters? You mentioned about having to train and rehire people. When do you think that's going to be allowed and if people are even going to want to go to the theaters.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a while. If you're living in Georgia right now and you're really, hankering to go see a movie, you might just have to bite the bullet and watch something at home, because companies like AMC and Regal Cinemas and Cinemark, they're still giving the status quo answer when they're asked when they're going to open up. They're still saying midsummer, probably at the openest, which makes sense given that curves are starting to flatten the hot zone. But I still think it's a little optimistic to say midsummer. I think the earliest you can really anticipate being back into a theater, if you're a movie theater fan, is probably fall at the earliest. I just don't think that the theaters, first of all, they're not going to risk getting people sick. They're not going to risk leaving themselves open to getting sued. And also, it just makes more sense to stay closed right now because we are not on the back end of this virus. Georgia isn't there yet either. So I think it's going to be probably fall at the earliest. And even that could be a little optimistic.
Now, any film fan knows that Georgia and specifically Atlanta is synonymous with the movie scene. A lot of movies are filmed in Atlanta, a lot of the Marvel movies especially. How is this move going to impact movie and TV production in the state of Georgia?
Well, like you said, Georgia has a lot of projects that got shot down there. Like Marvel uses it all the time. The Walking Dead shoots down there, and that's because Georgia gives really great tax credit for production companies. They get I think the number is 30% for people who want to shoot down there. So Kemp's plan, while it's not been explicitly stated, it most likely extends to production companies. But production companies have been asked whether they're going to reopen and start production back up anytime soon. And they've been giving pretty much the same answers as the movie theaters. It's just not going to happen right now. It doesn't make sense to open up, and it really logistically, why even do it? There's too many people that are going to be on set, so that breaks the 10 people rule. And if you're going to shoot scenes in crowded areas, you just can't do that right now. If you want a city scene, there's just no possible way to do that right now. And people in the industry are saying that when this type of work, this production work comes back, it's going to come back all together. You're not going to get production starting up in one or two places where just because they've been allowed to by their state, and then the rest of the entertainment industry, especially the big, New York City and Los Angeles, are still closed. You're not going to get these smaller hubs starting up when the rest of the industry is still on lockdown. So production's probably only going to restart in Georgia when it's ready to restart elsewhere.
Well, it sounds like a story that is going to be ongoing in the coming weeks. Sam, thank you so much for joining us. And coming up on the Unpeeled podcast, we recap everything you need to know about the One World Together broadcast.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five.
Elton John, Stevie Wonder, Lady Gaga, J-Lo, and more performed in a star-studded broadcast hosted by Global Citizen to raise money for coronavirus-related charities. While 2 hours of the concert were aired on major TV networks such as ABC, the event was broadcasted online for 8 hours. Lady Gaga and her mom partnered with Global Citizen and the World Health Organization to put together the musical spectacular with just a 2-week notice. Here to talk about who shined, who showed up, and who shocked the world is Unpeeled music reporter Skylar Rivera. Skylar, how are you doing?
Great. How are you guys?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. And now we know that this concert was streamed online for 8 hours. Obviously, 2 hours were on TV, but the fact that this in total was 8 hours is crazy. Who performed at this concert?
Yeah, Liam, 8 hours, actually insane. So Global Citizen usually puts on a concert every year, but this year they decided to do it a bit different. So they hosted this 8-hour virtual concert with the World Health Organization, and luckily Lady Gaga's mom actually works at the World Health Organization. So they asked if her and her daughter could put together a star-studded lineup. So the concert was initially supposed to be just online. Again, 8 hours, super long, but then channels like ABC and CBS picked up the broadcast to broadcast it on TV. And within 2 weeks, All these artists got together from all different genres that included Lizzo, Shawn Mendes, Elton John, John Legend, Juanes, Luis Fonsi, Stevie Wonder. It was actually insane. So 2 performances really stood out. First, the Rolling Stones. They had a 4-way Zoom that had drummer Charlie Watts playing the air drums as the group belted out "You Can't Always Get What You Want." I mean, it was really cool for fans of all ages. Really cool to see that. Another standout performance was the final performance of the night. It had Celine Dion, Andrea Bocelli, Lady Gaga, Lang Lang, and John Legend all performing The Prayer, and it was actually angelic.
I saw the performance on the TV version. I didn't watch the online stream, but it was amazing. It was so cool to see everyone come together, but not just artists, but also different journalists as well, presenting information about COVID-19. So I'm curious, how much did the concert raise and where did it go to?
Yeah, so the Together at Home concert raised just over $127.9 million. All this money went to benefit healthcare workers and coronavirus relief. So 55.1 million will go to a COVID-19 solidarity response fund. And the next 77.8 million will go to local and regional first responders. Global Health started this initiative to ensure patients and healthcare workers that they have easy access to testing, treatment, and protective gear.
That sounds incredible. I mean, 9 figures of raised money is absolutely insane. And one thing we're seeing with this whole pandemic situation is we do see a lot of relief concerts or events where they bring people together via virtual means and have something for fans to watch. Specifically, we saw that with iHeartRadio's benefit concert a couple weeks ago. How did this concert differentiate itself from iHeartRadio's concert?
So, Liam, this one wasn't that much different, but this one is getting a bit of backlash. The concert was formatted the same as iHeartRadio's concert a couple weeks ago. All the stars sang at home, and the segments were pre-recorded. This one was way longer than iHeartRadio's 1-hour show, with the concert stretching over 8 hours on the internet and on TV. Like you said, Katie, Global Citizen brought together journalists and comedians like Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert to host the show. They also dropped some jokes, you know. First Lady Michelle Obama even made an appearance to show her appreciation for first responders. While the lineup was loaded with stars, it did receive some backlash. The New York Post published an article earlier this week saying that the artist chose the most depressing songs to sing. And it was kind of true. A lot of the artists didn't really sing their songs. I mean, Elton John sang Still Standing, but other artists like Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello sang some sadder songs. Perhaps they wanted to appeal to the unusual times, I'm not quite sure. But in addition to the bashing of the sounds, the New York Post also pointed out that these artists were performing with the background of luxurious $1 million homes that kind of made viewers feel worse about their stay-at-home situation. But you know, there's good and bad to concerts like this. On the bright side, a massive amount of money was raised for COVID relief funds, and it's good to hear some tunes on a Saturday night, you know, in the comfort of your own home.
Yes, Skylar, definitely. And with all of the positive and negative critiques on the performance, what can we expect from the music world after an event this large?
Yeah, Katie, I would expect a lot more virtual concerts like this the longer the stay at home initiatives stay in effect. This concert was proof that longer events could produce a lot of money. They're very successful. But again, people want music, and the artists are going to give the people what they want. I know you guys talked about the All In Challenge, and I think we could see a lot more musicians stepping up to the plate to raise money for COVID-19 relief funds, or, you know, just playing for fun over social media. I mean, it's great to see that music isn't on pause while the whole world is, and that we could still enjoy the sounds of our favorite artists from home.
Well, it's good to see all this stuff going on, especially when they're broadcasting for a good cause. Thank you, Skylar, so much for joining us.
Thank you. Stay safe, guys.
Celebrities across the country are taking part in a fun new challenge that engages their fans while raising money for a good cause. Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, and Ellen DeGeneres are just a few of the stars who are participating. Celebrity beat reporter Mia McGregor is here to tell us everything we need to know about the All In Challenge. Mia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's just jump right in with this. How did the All In Challenge start, and what is its goal?
So the All In Challenge began on April 14th, and it was actually created by Michael Rubin, who is the founder and executive chairman of the sports apparel store Fanatics. and he used the company's connections to a lot of high-profile athletes and celebrities to kickstart the challenge. And its main goal is to raise money for several different charities aimed at eliminating food insecurity, like Meals on Wheels, No Kid Hungry, and Feeding America. So they will use these connections to have celebrities donate potential prizes, meet and greets, whatever they'd like to donate or whatever they can donate. And then they'd use all the money that they made from this to give to those charities.
So it sounds like a great challenge for a really good cause, but we have people from all over the entertainment industry, from sports to celebrities to actors involved. How exactly does this challenge work?
Okay, so once the celebrity donates whatever they'd like to donate, it gets posted on the All In Challenge website, and then participants have the option to either bid on a specific prize donated by a celebrity or pay for entries into a sweepstakes for a prize. And the entries are normally $10 for 10 entries, but the bidding for some of the prizes have surpassed hundreds of $1,000s. I think for Tom Brady's prize that he offered, which was like a meet and greet with him, a dinner, and then tickets to his home opener game and his home opener jersey, that bidding has gone up to, I believe, $750,000.
Liam, can you beat it?
See,
Liam wants that one.
when you first started mentioning it, I thought about maybe I'll put a bid, but I don't think I have that kind of money. $750,000. I mean, if that's all going to this research, that's phenomenal.
So we have Tom Brady, Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman. Who are some of the biggest celebrities participating in this challenge, Mia?
So there are a ton of celebrities and companies taking part in the challenge, and more people continue donating new prizes each day. But some of the major celebrities who are currently part of the challenge, like I mentioned before, Tom Brady, which is dinner and tickets to his next game and his jersey. Leonardo Dicaprio is actually offering a role in his next movie, which I thought was a really cool one. Ellen DeGeneres is offering a chance for someone to co-host an episode of The Ellen Show with her, which would be like a crazy experience. I think that'd be an awesome one to win. Drake is offering the chance for 9 people to party with him and get VIP access to one of his concerts, which I personally wanted to enter, but that's like a 21 plus entry. Kind of upset about that. I know Ariana Grande just added a prize where she's offering a studio tour and then a dinner with her, which would also just be a great prize that I think they're going to get a lot of money for people wanting to enter those.
All these challenges sound really cool. Mia, I want to put you on the spot right before we wrap up. If you could pick one celebrity and one type of prize to be your dream prize for this challenge, what would it be?
That is tough. The Drake prize really appealed to me. I'm like a huge Drake fan, so I saw that. I was going to enter so fast, but then I saw the age restrictions, which, I was upset about, but I hope whoever wins that has a lot of fun because that would be insane.
Seriously, so many amazing, amazing celebrities and amazing prizes, all for a great cause. You said that all of the proceeds will go to Meals on Wheels, No Kid Hungry, and Feeding America. Is that
Yep.
correct? Yeah, so definitely something people should look into participating. Wonderful opportunities there. And thank you so much for joining us, Mia.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
And that is actually all the time we have for you on this week's edition of the Unpeeled podcast and for the rest of our spring season. For everyone at home and for all our seniors graduating, thank you so much. I've been Liam Crowley.
And I'm Katie Lane. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at CitrusTV Entertainment and Twitter at CitrusTVE. Have a safe and happy summer, Unpeelers.